has so little time to get her policies out there to really win America over, right? And so why is she not just spamming interviews left, right, center? Every opportunity to debate anybody about anything. You think this would be her time to really stand up, address the American people, demonstrate her attorney general skills, her intellect, her ability to speak, right, and get her message across? You think this is her time to shine. This is what she wants to do. We're told from her establishment and the left that she is super smart. She's this crazy prosecutor. She can stand up to anybody. Yet she refuses to talk to even friendly news agencies.
Which is like 90% of the mainstream media at this point. You know, shit, she could probably even go onto Fox and find a friendly face there, you know. So probably. She stays away from Gutfeld or something, you know.
Right, and she couldn't really even talk about that. Even that this was Dana brought this up. I mean, we're kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but Dana brought it up like, why aren't you talking to more people? And she's like, and she didn't really have an answer.
She's just like, why are you asking me a question like that?
Yeah, I'm here now. Like it's crazy. And so
you know, there's a lot of things I didn't like about it. You know, the fact that CNN had their live sticker still up on the interview when it was absolutely not a live interview. You know, there's just like Dana Bash actually, she did a good job of interviewing her. I was actually surprised at some of the questions. And, you know, very first question out of her mouth, what are you going to do day one? She's like word silencing all over the damn place. And so Dana's like, I'm going to reiterate, like, what are you doing day one, right? I was kind of surprised that she was like actually holding her to answering a question. I don't know. The whole interview seemed kind of pointless to me. Like, yay, she finally broke her silence after 40 days. She's finally getting, you know, some stuff out there, but she's talking around in circles. You know, like she's like, these are my new stances. And then Dana's like, well, why'd you change your mind? And she's like, I didn't change my mind. These have been my stances since day one. And they're like, no, they're not. Like, nothing you just said there was factual. Like, why shouldn't you get called out on that kind of crap?
Right.
You know, so I don't know.
You actually brought up a really good point there. And it's something that I caught as well, is the subliminal messaging that was coming from CNN and Dana, right?
Yeah.
She kicked off the segment, right? The 9 o'clock segment with live in Savannah, Georgia. And then she said it over and over and over. Every time they cut back to Dana, live in Savannah, Georgia, live in Savannah, Georgia. Okay, yes, in those few seconds where she was introducing the upcoming interview, she was live in Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah.
The interview was not live. You just said it. But yet they kept saying it over and over and over.
Yeah.
With good reason, because Kamala can't do anything live. Right. And so that's a big criticism of Kamala Harris, is everything she does is scripted. And so this was kind of like an interesting way to subliminally combat that messaging, because so many people are going to watch this.
Dude, it's a hell of a safety net, because like if I was worried about going live and I knew in the back of my head that I had Jesse's editing skills to catch me, you know, I would be like, let's do it, you know?
Right.
Let's do these interviews. But the one thing that really struck me throughout the entirety of this interview, right? Like, it's not the doublespeak and not the blatant lies, but it was the body language that she displayed. And, you know, she was always looking down at the table when she was making her answers. Sometimes she'd like look up, you know, make eye contact with Dana, look back down at the table. But like, I was like, maybe that's just the way she spoke. Because like, I watched the interview, I listened to a lot of people talk about her body language, but the moment that her niece came on the television screen and they captured, you know, that beautiful moment that they were trying to portray, she lit up. She was all happy, her eyes, she knew what she was talking about. Like, she was making eye contact, she was looking up, you know, like completely different body language to the entirety of the other 27 minutes that they were in this interview together.
Right.
And, you know, Tim Walz added absolutely nothing to this. I mean, he was silent for almost the first 20 minutes. There was like maybe 30 seconds at the very beginning where he chimed in, and then he was just sitting there awkwardly
Right.
for the entirety of the interview.
We're not
It's like,
electing
why?
Tim Walz to president. We're electing potentially, Kamala Harris. So I'm not even sure why he's there. Like, yeah, he's a part of the ticket, but we all recognize that, the VP is not the most important thing, especially when we want to understand what the president elect, could, or the future president could potentially do for the country.
I always kind of think of it like the CO and the XO of a boat. The CO is there, he's giving direction, he's the face of the crew, and the XO is behind the scenes whipping everybody into shape. Fucking putting the fear of, administration in their asses.
Right.
So
it was interesting. Yeah, but so I largely agree with you. I'm not sure what he was doing there.
So I get that they're trying to, it's their first interview together. They're trying to show a coordinated thing, but like they didn't have any, chemistry. It was like, why are these two perfectly good strangers sitting next to each other awkwardly, And she was all like hunched over and looking down the entire time, like super uncomfortable being there.
Yeah. I mean, so what I wanted to learn more of is policy. Like, what is her policy? For God's sakes, how are you going to change the country?
Yeah.
Right now, all we have is what Biden Harris was planning for 2025, right? It was a 188-page paper that was going to cost the American public $5 trillion. It was a disaster, at least as far as I'm concerned. And so that's all we really had to go off of. We talked about it in our last podcast briefly, right? We kind of went through the points. So I was like, okay, here's an opportunity for Harris to get her agenda, out in front of the public. And basically she was like, let's do more Bidenomics.
And she didn't even walk away from it. Like they gave her the opportunity. They were like, so you're saying that Bidenomics works? And she's like, yeah, I'm standing by it. Trump left us with this disaster. I was like, where are you living at? Like what fantasy land are you living in?
So ultimately, right, when asked, she's like, what's her the first thing that came out of her mouth is that she needs to strengthen the middle class. Like that's what she wants to do.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, her response was largely lip service. She literally just saying the words, we're going to strengthen the middle class. Great. How? How are you going to strengthen the middle class?
That's it. Yeah.
She did not get into it. So
right.
How about we get into it for a second on her behalf? Let's just using the examples of the last 3.5 years, right?
Yeah.
So some of the good things about the 3.5 years under Bidenomics, okay, is the economy continued to recover post-COVID, right?
Yep.
GDP continued to increase, right? However, there were issues with unemployment, right? Unemployment suffered post-COVID because of COVID, largely, right? So ultimately, those numbers went down, and of course, that regime blames Trump for COVID, like in their response, they blame Trump on their response to COVID because of the such a faulty foundation that Trump gave them.
And the thing that blows my mind too is that most of the layoffs and the lost businesses were in large cities, completely up and down the board, run by Democratic leadership. If you look at every single one of them that shuttered their economy, all of the businesses lost, all the small business turnovers, like that's where you saw all of the hurt that Kamala was talking about, the shitty economy that they inherited. It wasn't from the places that kept their businesses open, that kept their employees staffed. So I don't know exactly, I understand that she's just trying to spin the narrative, and maybe that works for a lot of people. Maybe people don't have the memory to go back 6 months or a year or 2 or 4 years, but the economy that we walked into with Biden and Harris was a good economy. It was an okay economy. 2020 was rough for everybody. It wouldn't have mattered who the president was, I don't think, because we've never seen us shutter an economy like we did during COVID, where it was like, close down your businesses, nobody can do anything. And if you're basing everything off of Wall Street, I mean, Wall Street was great up until 2022, I think, and then straight down. And then it recovered, I don't know, 14, 15 months later. So.
Right. So I mean, if you look at what Trump was trying to do, Trump was ultimately, shoulder checking the WHO, saying, "You assholes were aware of this and did nothing, and you want us to help you? How? And you're not going to criticize China? Why? And you're coming after us, so you can go straight to hell." And of course, the world and the left, really, myself included, I was part of this crowd, to be totally honest, was like, how dare you go after the WHO? They're literally trying to do all this good. Here's all the things that WHO has done quite well. And then you dig into the cozy relationship the WHO has with China and their inability to criticize China, and the fact that they had to know of the gain-of-function research that was happening in the Wuhan lab, right? And the fact that it was, very, very likely to escape, and they did nothing about it. You're absolutely right to criticize the WHO as Trump. And then, of course, what did Trump want to do? He wanted to close the borders with China. He wanted to make sure that nobody from China can come to the United States, which is perfectly a reasonable thing to do during a pandemic. Yeah. But everybody called him xenophobic. It's like, I even at the time, as somebody who lived and breathed, this kind of like, left policy, it didn't make any sense to me. Like, of course you close borders to the country that is currently experiencing a pandemic. You don't want it coming to yours, to your country. Right. And then if we just kind of double down on this whole COVID thing, we already talked about it once. We could talk about it some more, but we were completely lied to by Anthony Fauci and his kind of like, cult that was trying to push this pandemic mismanagement on the United States so that, various people could profit. Crazy amounts of money. We already know that masks were a complete farce. We already know that social distancing was completely made up. We already know that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were the exact prophylactics that everybody on the planet needed to take. And these guys did everything they could to destroy the good name of these drugs that were already saving lives for other reasons across the world, so that they could force the FDA to reschedule them, and then push their gene therapy, mRNA, quote-unquote vaccines on the American people. And in doing so, kept people quarantined in their houses, which crippled, the middle class. All these small businesses were completely annihilated, like you're saying, especially in large cities. We all saw it happen. I live in a large city. All of our favorite, restaurants just evaporated overnight because nobody could go and visit them. As a matter of fact, it was illegal to go. It was illegal for a small business to be open during these times. They had to do like,
gyms all these too.
Gyms, everything. Churches.
Churches.
So, of course, there, with these types of things coming out of Fauci, and what's the middle class supposed to do other than fail? And
that's what happened. Like with all of those things happening, we had an explosion in our housing economy. Right. Houses doubled, tripled in price. Most of the houses, almost everywhere in this country, are $300,000 a year right now. Everywhere. That is really hard to afford on a $35,000, $45,000, $55,000 salary a year. So that means that you're locked into renting. Renting has gone up. Like people that were able to buy houses and rent their old house out, I mean, they're making bank, if they could afford to do that.
Right.
But it doesn't help the people that are trying to get up on their feet, trying to recover, whatever. They're not making it in this thing. And then Kamala Harris has the audacity to say that they're going to give you $25,000 for first-time home buyers, right? What's $25,000 going to do on a $400,000 home? You still need another $75,000 to do a 20% down payment on a $400,000 house, right? You need $100,000 almost. 80, sorry. My math is wrong. You need $80,000. So you still need to cough up $55,000, right?
Right.
That's a lot. It's a hell of a lot of money. I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And then the question comes: one, where's that money going to come from?
Yeah.
Us, and the taxpayer. And two, does this solve the root cause of the housing crisis? No. It's a Band-Aid that funnels more money from the taxpayer into into BlackRock, honestly, who's going to make the most money off of this. A lot of that $25,000 is going to go to people buying houses owned by BlackRock.
I mean, their stated purpose in life is to own 60% of the single family homes by 2030, right? And they have a lot of real estate down along what's called the Sun Belt of our country, Georgia to Los Angeles or whatever it is.
Yep.
So their stated purpose is to own 60% of that market, and that's a lot. That's a lot. You know, entire neighborhoods are owned by BlackRock, and then they rent these things out. And if they're building these houses and they're worth $400,000 and they've got an 8% interest on that thing, that rent is $4,000 all day long, right? To turn a profit. So I don't know who is paying $4,000 a month in rent. I'm not. Like I'd be living out of my car at that point.
Right.
So I just don't understand how, you know, if she's not putting forth legislation to ban investment companies from owning real estate like that, she's not going to be helping the middle class out. I mean, that would right there, day one, would help out the middle class. It would help out everybody in this country.
Right.
Maybe not realtors, or people that are renting their houses out, but it would help everybody else out.
Totally. And so you actually brought us right back. So we're talking about so Kamala Harris's policies, and her first one that she talked about was how to strengthen the middle class. So we just got saying that there's lots of problems here. And ultimately, if you look at her career under Biden and Harris, right, what those two managed to do is increase inflation went up, right, skyrocketing, uncontrollable. Cost of energy through the roof, right? Cost of goods through the roof under Biden and Harris. And guess who pays that? I guess who struggles with that? The lower and middle class. We're the ones that have to deal, who have to now, manage our money more closely. Luckily, the middle class will be able to deal with it, but they have to pay for it, right? And it's going to make their buying power that much weaker. The lower class is totally screwed, completely screwed.
It puts a insurmountable barrier in between. I mean, it creates class systems doing it this way.
Right.
You're going to have poor people that will never escape poverty because of the way that they're running the government right now.
Yeah.
Without generational wealth and families living with each other for the rest of their lives, they will never escape that poverty.
Right.
And that's pretty awful for what we're thinking as America, and how much prosperity there supposedly is here, which I would still take this over most countries.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. And Harris too, kind of along those lines, likes to talk about how the economy is better today than it was at the start of her administration. It's sure, you started at the pandemic. It's at the low of the low. We're gonna, one way or another, we're coming out of this pandemic. One way or another, the economy's gonna recover. We don't need you here to do that. That's just gonna happen. And she loves to take credit for it.
They just made it harder. I mean, she took credit for so much crap and then blamed Trump for everything that was wrong. And I was like, lady, she basically was like, over the last decade, we've had bad leadership. And I was like, are you trying to say it was Trump for 4 years? Or are you trying to say Obama, Biden, and Trump? Who are you blaming with an answer like that?
She blamed it on the era. She wants to transform into a new era of which she was definitely a part of the last decade, right? She was a part of that movement.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
Dana called her out on it. So.
Yeah, she did. She's like, you're here now. Why aren't you implementing anything that you're talking about? You're obviously running the White House. When number one goes down, number two takes over.
Yeah.
And number one's been on a beach.
He's still on a beach.
Weeks. Yeah.
Just as of today, you can see the pictures of him on the beach.
I know. He's
September 1st.
He's going to be on a beach forever.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking Weekend at Bernie's.
Right. So again, if we look at the effects of the Biden-Harris administration on the middle class, evidence suggests that, the evidence is very strong, that there's been an increased loss of wealth for the middle class across the board. right?
There's a huge amount of credit card debt too.
So that's a part of this, right? So when we talk
Yeah.
about loss of wealth for the middle class, credit card debt is your first indication that that's happening, because more people are having to borrow money to cover everyday living expenses and or things that they want to go do, right? The extraneous.
Yeah.
Decrease in real wealth on the order of $33,000 per family in the middle class under her administration. That is coupled with the wage growth being outpaced by inflation. It's a double whammy.
Yeah.
Right. And so we see this impact in the increase in loss of wealth in the middle class, also in the decrease in amount of money in savings accounts in the middle class has gone down. And as we've been talking about, home ownership affordability is in the gutter. It's completely in the gutter.
It's like up 40%. It is absolutely ridiculous.
Yep, from 307,000 in 2001 to 426,000 today, which is an increase in 39%.
Yeah.
Who's going to be able to who is getting that kind of wage increase over 2 years, 3 years?
No one has gotten that. No one has gotten that.
I would be a bazillionaire if I was getting that.
I feel bad for the people that are living in major cities, to be honest, that don't have a mortgage locked in, that are trying to make their payments.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you're making $4,000 or $5,000 a month in mortgage payments, like anywhere in this country.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot. So, and I know for a fact that, 80% of the Americans are making less than $80,000 a year.
Easy.
Yep. Like there's not very many of you guys that are making over 100K. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, more and more people every day enter the 6-figure market, but it's because
absolutely they do.
It doesn't matter anymore. It used to be something to be proud of, and now it's just like, yeah, okay.
It's like, oh, so you're surviving. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, sweet. You're doing better than the average American, assuming you're living outside of a big city.
Right.
And I also loved. So if we move along the policy conversation here, her next question that they talked about is kind of like COVID response. And what did she do? Blame Trump.
Oh yeah. First words out of her mouth. Trump mishandled it egregiously or some bullshit.
Right.
Some big fucking hoity-toity word.
Right. And again, we were just talking about it briefly about what Trump did, right? His first response was to restrict travel to China. And he was called a xenophobe.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fucking crazy, right?
Yeah.
At the time, he was completely shoulder checking Fauci. Fauci wanted to do all this radical stuff, and Trump was like, "What? Why? No, we don't need these miracle drugs. Like, what do we have in the stock in the national stockpile right now?"
Even his first inclination when they were talking about shuttering the U.S. economy, he's like, "You guys are out of your fucking minds." Right. He's like, "You don't even understand the damage you're about to cause to America for this one instance."
Yep.
He was trying everything in his power to be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nobody was having it.
You remember how he compared it to the flu? And everybody wanted to crucify him
Lost
after that?
Their fucking minds. Yeah.
And then guess what we know today? That
same thing.
Yep. Had the world treated COVID, let's just put it this way. Had Big Daddy government not told local doctors how to do their fucking job, right? The pandemic would have resulted in less deaths in the United States than a typical flu season.
Yeah.
Okay. So Trump was 100% right
to
suggest that this was just nothing but the common flu. As a matter of fact, most doctors will say 99% of the population, just with their normal antibodies and their immune system, would be able to deal with the COVID perfectly fine. They wouldn't even know they had it.
I mean, if you look at the survival rate, it was like 99.6%, right?
Yeah,
I mean, yes, there was a lot of death, but it was mostly due to comorbidities, right? And that happens with the flu. The only thing that sucks about COVID is that it was so viral. Like, it spreads so easy.
Well, no. That's the thing. That's part of the lie. It spread so bad because Fauci put contagious people, locked them in with uninfected people, and then told that person that they couldn't seek help until the viral load in their body was at such a rate that they were in respiratory distress and had to go to a hospiel, at which point they were giving it to fucking everybody. It was this asshole Fauci. Like he literally, dude, this guy, if anyone needs to be on a cross and persecuted in Times Square, it's him.
That's what I'm talking about, buddy.
Fucking asshole.
Like, I really hope that Rand Paul gets his wish and gets to prosecute Fauci. There's nothing I want more than him, and I can't remember the head of the other NIH department that was there, lockstep with him, that retired back in 2021 or something like that. He was like, I got to get out of this. It's getting too hot.
Right.
But did you see the look on Dana Bash's face when she was trying not to say borders are? It's like, I mean, you had the responsibility of the southern border, right? Like, you were going down to figure out what the root cause of the migration crisis was in Central America. And she was like doing everything in her power not to say borders are. I was dying. Okay, listen. All right, we've already said this once. At no point in time are you going to be able to find anybody denying Kamala Harris as the borders are. That doesn't exist. What does exist is exactly that, though. Okay, so whether you like it or you don't, it's just verbiage. It's just verbiage. That's all it is.
Her tasking was to go find the root cause in like 3 Latin American countries. Okay, that's what Biden asked her to do. And what did she do?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. She didn't even do that.
She didn't go down there for like 2 years.
And then what's even crazier than that is that she tried to use that to claim success. She's like, no, it was I did my job so well that we saw a decrease in people coming to the border from these countries I visited. Fuck you. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, we saw the border crisis is at its apex right now under you. Okay. So don't you dare try to tell us that it's under control. And then she had the audacity to go out and blame Trump again.
I know.
Saying, oh, no, we had it under control. We needed to get this legislation passed to go resolve it. But Trump came out of fucking left field and then convinced all the Republicans to vote against it. Okay.
Yeah, killed a bill?
Yeah.
No.
I remember that this whole thing. Okay. And yes, Trump was vocal against the bill.
Absolutely.
However, according to Kamala Harris, they put all of their ducks into that single basket. And then when it inevitably failed, she blamed Trump. She's like, hey, this was our great idea. And then it took us 3 years to get it. And then Trump fucked it.
So the thing that drives me insane, right, is these politicians do this crap where they put out legislation that is no way it's going to get passed, right? No way that it's going to get bipartisan agreement if they needed it, right? Which I don't even think they needed it at the time. I think they just put it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the House and the Senate were being run by, blue at that point. I think they had 2 years in the first 2 years. I believe that the House was theirs, and I don't think the Senate was theirs, but I think they got the Senate at least tied up in 2022. Regardless, she basically puts out legislation that's never going to get any kind of Republican support, and then cries that the Republicans didn't want to play ball. But they do it on purpose. They do it on purpose, right?
Right.
Because they don't want anything to actually be done, but they want to show that they're trying to do something. So it's like, oh, I'm going to clean the house today. Oh no, it's raining. I can't clean the house today. Sorry.
Right. Well,
whatever.
The thing is, but Kamala, there's so many tools in the executive tool shed to go deal with a border crisis. You can call it a fucking public crisis, right? An emergency.
Yeah.
And then do all these things under emergency proclamation that the president has the ability to do work. And if Kamala Harris was in fact some sort of, had some sort of responsibility to go sure that up, she could have brought that to Biden's attention. I need you to do this emergency stuff. She did not. She instead
signed it with his own hand.
Yes, apparently. But instead, she blamed one bill over 3.5 years, its failure to make it through the House and the Senate, on Trump.
Yeah.
You should go straight to hell.
Yeah.
Like, that was so ridiculous.
And then you start looking, and I've been digging into this, so I'm having a hard time figuring out what's real and what's not real. over in Aurora, Colorado, where you got Venezuela gangs supposedly taking over apartment complexes, right? Um, it, what do you expect is going to happen when you have entire populations of Venezuela dumping their prison systems and their mental asylums into America because our border is wide open and they're not doing anything to stop it? So it's like, what were you expecting to happen? You're shitting on our law enforcement. Nobody wants to do anything about this crap anymore. And then when the law enforcement does go in to do something, one of them dies. There's a shootout at an apartment complex between Venezuela gangs and, local police officers. Like, that's a travesty that never should have happened, And I don't know if it's true or not, but I've been seeing shit all over the internet where they're talking about Hell's Angels coming in. So it's going to be interesting.
I have also been seeing this. I need to dig into it. Every time I dig into it, though, like Kamala or Trump do something crazy, and I have to go dig into that instead. But okay. Yeah. So, but to your point right there, okay, is that we have all these people coming to the border. There's no dispute. I don't care how left you are and how much you believe. Kamala Harris is the savior of the United States. All right. We all see the numbers. They come straight from the Customs Border Patrol. We see them, and ICE. 9 million people coming across the country illegally this year, all-time peak, or so I should say, over the course of her administration, all-time peak. We know that to be true. When Kamala was asked by Dana Bash, do you think border crossings should be decriminalized? That's a freebie, right? I'm lobbing the softball over the plate. And
it was the easiest interview that she could have been in.
She couldn't even disagree to that. Should she? Her shit should they? Absolutely not. We shouldn't decriminalize, people crossing the border illegally. We need to prosecute them. We need to find them. We need to get them out of the fucking country. She could have done all these things, but as opposed to doing any of that, she didn't do anything with the question. She just kind of talked around it for a little while.
She did mention for a second that we are a nation of laws, and pulled a little bit of Obama's speech out of her ass. And good for her. We are a nation of laws. Thanks for informing everybody for that. Right. For that 5 seconds. But it doesn't explain what you're going to do. Like, that's the problem that I have with Kamala. She just word salads a bunch of shit. She doesn't answer a question. She dances around it. Fuck, even Tim Walz was dancing around questions. He was just dodging questions.
He didn't answer a single one.
Like, I didn't hear a coherent answer out of either one of them for the vast majority of the questions.
Grammar not so good. Not
so good. Yeah, when he was pressed on the answer, right? Because I was like actually surprised she was pressing him on anything.
Right.
And she was being nice, she wasn't being hostile. Like, I don't know.
Do we know? The other point here before we get into Waltz is one of the big points that Dana brought up was the Israeli-Gazan war. Okay.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you going to do about this goddamn travesty that's occurring right now in Palestine?
Yeah.
And her response was nothing. She literally was okay with status quo. She wants to continue selling weapons to Israel. She wants to continue working the Department of State's political process or diplomatic process with the Israeli government. She doesn't want to do actually anything different.
Right.
So if anybody is actually following this fucking thing, what's occurring is called genocide. It's just the word. I don't care how pro-Israeli you are.
So
it is called genocide.
We're going to disagree a little bit on this one, right? And the Palestinian people have chosen to stand by a terrorist organization called Hamas. Okay. Hamas is using Palestinian people as a shield. They're using hospitals, playgrounds, children as shields. They have a bunch of hostages that they stole from a music festival in Israel, right, on October 7th. They went in, they slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, through breaches in a wall. That never should have happened. Like, supposedly the Israelis have some of the best intelligence in the world, and that escaped them. I don't know how that happened, right?
We told literally the CIA gave them the information.
It almost feels like they wanted it to happen, but neither here nor there. I'm not here to discuss conspiracy theories, right? But Egypt shares a wall, a border with Palestine, right? It's not that the Israelis surround Palestine, okay? The only good neighbor that the Palestinians actually have is Israel. They put a lot of their people to work. The Egyptians don't help out at all. They don't. They have some of the strictest requirements for Palestinians entering into Egypt. Okay? So like Israel is kind of a fair weather friend to the Palestinians. So it's not anyone's fault but Hamas's that this war is playing out the way it is right now. And you shouldn't blame anyone but Hamas for what is happening over there. And, you know, that's kind of my only disagreement with everything that's going on.
Okay. So here's, you mentioned we're blaming Hamas.
Should be.
Sure. All right. Hamas was elected into governance in 2006. All right.
Yes.
And guess what they did immediately after that? They removed the ability to publicly vote for the next government. They installed themselves as a dictatorship. And guess what the Palestinians did not like? The people. They did not like that. Yeah. All right. But they had no choice but to deal with this weaponized, Iranian-backed group of people. Yeah. They literally could dispose them. It was quite impossible. Yeah. And of course, Israel was also, not going to help out because they don't fucking like the Palestinians anyway. So infighting is perfect. Yeah. Right. So you can absolutely blame Hamas on all the things, but we also have to recognize that the Palestinian people were trying to deal with their own Hamas situation. Like they were like, oh shit, I would love to have elections again. And Hamas was like, nah, you don't get them. We're here. Yeah. You elected us for life. So we have to, there's a bunch that's happening on the ground that is not being talked about publicly like that. Like, I don't think you knew that. So, I mean, the definition of genocide is the deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. That describes the situation we're seeing here.
Yeah, but Israel blame Israel totally for being the bad guys when Egypt is just as bad or worse to the Palestinians? They share a border. They have a border wall up twice as high, twice as thick. They don't let people through.
Are you blaming the Egyptians on the current war that Israel is perpetrating on
They're not helping.
The Palestinians?
They're not helping.
I didn't ask that. Are you blaming? Are you saying that Egypt is far more to blame than the Israelis?
Let's take a look here. We have a group of people that went in and attacked another group of people, right? So Hamas came in and attacked Israel. We're both in agreement of that, right?
Yes.
Okay. So usually when one group of people attacks another group of people, it is a justifiable excuse to attack them back, correct?
The military forces? Sure.
Yeah.
Military.
I mean, that's how wars classically start, correct?
Typically.
Okay. So why do we say Israel shouldn't have any kind of ability to defend themselves against an attack or root out a corrupt government that just attacked you?
But that's not what's happening.
It is what's happening, is it not?
It's not.
They're lining Palestinians up in the street in Gaza and shooting them dead, burying them in shallow fucking graves.
Or they're blowing attacking.
Up hospitals. Because Hamas is hiding in them.
That's what they're telling
missiles.
You. Have you, Zach, ever seen? Jesse? I'm just saying. Have you seen a fucking Hamas cell operating in a hospital? No. The only intel we have is what the Israelis tell us. The Palestinians are saying they're not there. So are you? You're led to believe.
Is it Hamas that's saying it, or the Palestinians that are saying it? Are they one and the same?
The people that are literally taking the soot out of their eyes, saying, my God, we just got here. We just had to flee this other bombing. We just got here yesterday, and boom. And so apparently in that brief period of time, the Hamas was able to move in and develop and build these underground bunkers under these buildings, that particular place that all these civilians move to seek shelter. That also happens to be a hospital or, some sort of public space.
I mean, it's like rat warrants, dude. Hamas has built so many tunnels under that entire fucking country.
So are we saying that the only way to deal with terrorism is to eliminate a civilian population? Is that your policy?
No, it's not at all.
It sounds like that's your policy.
It's absolutely not. But the one thing that you could be doing, right, that Israel could be doing, is displacing that population. They could be taking them out of there, and I hate to say it, put them in camps, and then freaking wipe out Hamas if that's what their goal is.
Palestinians have been there way longer than the Israelis.
No, they have not.
Yes, they have.
Where did you get that information?
It's absolutely the facts.
Dude,
the Israeli people have moved.
The Israeli people have been in that region 3,000 years before Christ was born. Okay, they just reinstated their country back in the 60s. Correct me if I'm wrong there, right? But the Israeli people moved back into that. I mean, there are even Islamic countries over there that know that Israel has a right to be in that region. So the Palestinians are a group of migrants that settled there, and the Israeli government gave them that region to settle. So it's not like the Palestinians just fucking were there and the Israelis displaced them and put them in a walled compound between Israeli government and Egypt. So I don't know.
It's way more complicated than that, because it actually goes back further.
I know.
And so, yes, at one point in time, the state of Israel under I can't remember one of the kingdoms of Israel, Judah, something like that. Yeah. They were just one group of people. Okay.
Yeah.
History happened. Right. Yeah. And eventually, one group of those people were kind of like fled. All right. And then the remaining people just stayed, and those remaining people were the Palestinians. All right. And they have been there for thousands and thousands of years. Fast forward to kind of like modern time in the British Mandate. That's where you kind of see this rise in Zionism, where Israelis are starting to come back to the homeland. Right? So they've been gone for a long fucking time. Right? They've been dispersed across the planet because of their own fuck ups. Right? From again, we're talking about 1000 BCE, and then over time, and after World War II, the state of Israel was reformed, and all of the Israeli people were invited to, or the Jewish people were invited to come back. So we're talking at like 3,000 years now of displacement, and all these people who have been not in this place for 3,000 years are now coming back. These Palestinians have been there and never left. And so now you have the Israeli state. Yes, there are some people there that have been there the whole time, but the majority of which have been coming back since the 20s under the British Mandate, and then of course under the statehood of Israel. And now those people are the ones whooping the shit out of the people that have been there for 3,000 years. I mean,
they're not attacking the Palestinians.
They are literally attacking the Palestinians.
They're not targeting the Palestinians. They're targeting the Palestinians government, which is Hamas.
They're not.
They are.
40,000 civilians have died so far.
I mean, look at any war that anybody's ever been in and tell me that there aren't similar casualties to that.
But the rate, the death toll of people under 30.
What's the population in Gaza?
I don't know. Look it up. I literally don't know. But it's a fucking disaster. And this is basically what I'm saying, is that yes, there was an attack on Israel on October 8th or something like that. That I'm not even sure. Again, we can get into how this attack was launched, because it was very strange.
We'll look up some more detailed information, and we'll come back into this on another time. But there's about 5 million Palestinians as of 2022, and about 40,000 of them died. That doesn't really seem like genocide to me. If they were in there lining them up on the streets, shooting them like in World War II, like the Nazis did to the Jews, right? I would be more inclined to be like, oh shit, we got genocide. So like if this was a real Trail of Tears situation where the Americans rounded up the Native Americans and did to them the same thing, right? I mean, I'm pretty positive I've read multiple articles from people that are very knowledgeable about the region and about how the Israelis have ceded territory to the Palestinians multiple times in the last 20 or 30 years, right? Trying to appease them. And it's just never enough.
We will have to dig into that, because that's also crazy to think. But the fact is, So remember, genocide isn't necessarily so there's ethnic cleansing, which is what you've described, where you want an entire race gone. Right? That's ethnic cleansing. Right. Genocide can refer to a people's in place. And so I want this country fucking gone. I want this nation gone. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get rid of them. And you can just take the people and fucking take them out and take it over. Done. That would be considered genocide. And that's what's happening here. Everybody is pushing Israel. Well, most people are pushing Israel for a two-state solution, right? And Israel is basically saying, no, fuck you. We're just taking it all over right now. No, that's what they're doing right now.
The Israelis have tried the two-state scenario, and that's why Hamas exists.
They have not tried the two-state scenario.
We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it.
Yes.
It's going to be interesting. So the one thing that I will leave you, right, is that Palestine is completely landlocked. They don't have any way to get supplies into their country, right? If the Israelis absolutely wanted to genocide them, all they'd have to do is cut off supplies to the country, right? It would be done and over with in a month after they ate through their supplies and each other. So I honestly feel like they're probably waging a war where there's a huge amount of propaganda going on, and the Palestinian people are also trying not to die and to get rid of Hamas. And I really, truly think that Hamas is the bad guy in this situation. It's a gross terrorist government. So
Hamas is not great. Hamas has not done anything good for the Palestinian people. So you're thinking of the West Bank. The West Bank is landlocked. Gaza is on the coast.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, back to this whole fucking thing. Regardless, the current state of affairs is probably, I think we can both agree, not the right way to go about this. One way or another, something needs to change in this war in Israel, in Gaza. One way or another, it needs to be sorted. Otherwise, because right now it's literally expanding. Right now we're looking at Iran, Lebanon, and Syria. You know, looking to get involved in the war because Israel can't keep the rockets in their pants. It's like, spilling into, neighboring countries. And so now this thing has the potential to grow into a bigger conflict. So regardless of how you see this, we need to resolve it one way or another. We definitely want to prevent the loss of human life. And the way that's going about right now, by just letting Benjamin Netanyahu do whatever the fuck he wants, is not the way to go. Harris has no intentions of changing the way we're currently approaching the war, from her own mouth, which is super annoying. So, anything else on this before we move to Harris?
No, we went deep down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, we did. We did. We certainly did.
That'll be a good podcast for us to dig into and,
yeah,
have a
spicy.
good healthy debate about.
And you see, I think this is the first example of the nature of what we normally happens when we're debating. It's not we rarely agree. It's more of just of this stuff. It's just recently there's some things that have come to light where Zach and I are just in complete agreement on, because I've changed my perspective 100% on certain administrations because they fucking lied to us and I fucking hate being lied to. You lie to me,
there is nothing worse than that.
No. So if we look at Tim Walz, right?
Yeah.
He literally, the first thing Dana asked was about his military background. And he didn't answer it. He said, I'm proud of my...
He danced around that so hard.
He literally said, and I quote, "I'm proud of my experience. My record speaks for itself. I speak passionately, and people know me." What? Yeah. What the fuck does that mean, Tim Walz? It actually means nothing. And so it means he 100% lied, and he's just not going to take it back.
Right. And I'm sorry, but he didn't have any grammar issues in this freaking interview, right? Yeah, he only talked maybe 3 minutes out of the 27 minutes.
Right.
He added absolutely nothing important in the first 20 minutes of this interview.
No.
And I thought maybe the only part where either one of them had anything of substance to add to this interview was when they were talking about their families. And that was just the only time that they weren't dancing around anything, and they actually gave a clear and concise answer, and it had no benefit to the American people.
Right.
Like, We might as well have been on TMZ and just interviewing a regular celebrity about their family. Take us to Cribs. Let's go.
Right. They brought up a few other things too. Dana asked him about the, there was some accident involving a DUI in 1995, right?
Yeah.
That he was involved in. So he was arrested for driving under the influence in Nebraska. He was pulled over for speeding, doing 96 miles an hour in a 55. He had a BAC of 0.128, which is, it's definitely drunk driving, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he refused to apologize. He refused to take any accountability for it. He literally just didn't even answer. He skipped over. I think he said something along the lines of, I won't apologize for my past. We all have skeletons. Something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. I mean, that's an answer, but.
And it's not, to be honest with you, it happened, fucking 30 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. He's moved on with his life, and it's just a talking point on people trying to smear him. Maybe he's already made his apologies. Maybe he's already, made his peace with it. And maybe we're just looking for things to pick at somebody. But digging up shit from 30 years ago, whatever. It goes to show his character for sure. He's unapologetic and he just does what he kind of wants to do.
Yeah. Yep. They kind of asked him about what else they really didn't talk much about his background other than his bringing in his weapons, he brought in his weapons of war comment, like how he brought in a weapon of war, he fought in a war, something along the lines. He tried to, this is where he got his my grammar not so good comment.
Yeah.
Because according to Tim Waltz, when he said that he brought a weapon into war, he was talking about
school shootings
or something like that. Like,
yeah,
mind blown. Okay.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, schools are so dangerous and they're like war. And we just had something really bad happen when that comment came out. And my wife told me my grammar's not the greatest. I'm like, cool.
You're a fucking idiot, Tim Walz.
Cool story, bro.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that's the stupidest thing I've heard. They briefly addressed Biden's cognitive decline. And of course, what did Harris say? Nothing. He's like, no, I totally stand by it. I think you do a great job as a president.
Yeah.
In the next term. The bro, dude, he can't even. Have you seen videos? I encourage anybody to go find a video of Biden, like just recently, right? Especially in the last couple months. Dude, the guy's a space cadet. Like literally, he'll be sitting in a crowd. He'll be sitting on a beach. He'll be sitting anywhere, and he is not there. The dude is just not there. He's not mentally available. You could go and
we should go back and watch some of his greater moments from 2020. And I don't really see much difference between now and 2020, really, truly. Like you go back, because I made my wife watch some of the Biden, Paul Ryan debate. And, honestly, Biden acted a little bit.
15? That was a long time ago.
2012.
There we go.
Something like that. And Biden was walking all over Paul Ryan. He was acting exactly like Trump does in a debate, which is quite hilarious to watch. But he was on it, that was prime VP Biden, and he acts nothing like he did in 2020 or now. So you can honestly see it, how much cognitive decline he's had in the last 12 years.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing they didn't touch at all, by the way, which is actually probably the biggest thing, is Tim Walz's connections with the CCP. A lot of people don't realize that Tim Walz, from a very early age, has been infatuated with China. He loves China. And by the way, I am not suggesting anybody should hate or love China. I don't care. Me personally, I've been into a huge Japan kick. I'm learning Japanese, watching a lot of, anime, reading manga, things like that. Because I love it. I love the culture. We've been a couple times now. It's just fun. And, it's just like, it's totally different than life here in the United States. The language, the peoples, the foods, everything. So it's a treat to go. And so I really love it. And I can totally appreciate that would be a very similar experience for someone going to China. All right. And just loving the culture, the food, the peoples, just the different way of living. However, all right. This is our vice president. Yeah. And we need to basically, economically speaking, kick the ever little shit into China. We need to kick in their doors and tell them to stop stealing our IP. We need to get them in fucking control. They can't just be doing these things. They have ties to North Korea, crazy ties to North Korea. Yeah. It's just not good what they're doing to the Uyghur population. Now that's genocide.
That is genocide.
That's ethnic cleansing.
That's
right?
Ethnic cleansing.
It is horrible.
Holy crap! The atrocities, like organ harvesting, the experiments,
one-child policies,
is terrifyingly awful.
Yes.
You know, like you want something.
Gain-of-function research that led to COVID-19 going all over the place.
Yeah.
We need to be really hard on China right now.
Yeah.
Economically speaking, diplomatically speaking. We just need to come down full force.
Yeah.
Tim Walz is not the person to do that. He loves
Biden
the country.
No.
Neither was Biden, right? Obviously not Biden. And so now we have another person who really, and again, I don't credit. This is not a bad thing. It's not a smear to like a culture or peoples or country. That's not what's happening. No. But for right now, in this moment in time, we need somebody who is going to be able to go in and crack down on this country, and that is not Tim Walz. It's just simply not. He grew up going to China. He grew in his school career. He worked with the CCP to help subsidize class school trips to China. So he's been like over 30 something like that times. He had his honeymoon in China. His anniversary is on a prominent date in China. Okay, the guy just lives and breathes, and that's totally fine. That's cool, by all means. But we're electing him into the vice presidency, and we need somebody in that seat who's going to go after him.
And I will say that somebody having good knowledge of an adversary or a competitor could be an asset. You know, having intimate knowledge of your competitors can be an asset, but not when you don't really take pride in your team in America, you know, in the first place, because I don't see a lot of that come from Tim Walz. And I don't know. I would like to jump on and say maybe that this guy is bought and paid for, you know, by CCP stuff. He has all the hallmarks, right? You see just everything that we really hate about the dismantling of our American culture within Tim Walz. He's doing everything in his power to create division within our country. And a guy like him should never have been elected to office. So it's like, how did he get there, right? Who's been funding his campaigns? It's probably the CCP, if I'm being a conspiracy theorist, you know?
That's very conspiratorial, yes.
Yeah, but we see it a lot with China, right? China can't outright come in and attack America. They would if they could, right? They want to displace us. So the easiest way for China to do that is to attack our institutions of education, our culture. You know, China owns Hollywood right now. They own our colleges. They own our farming. You know, they probably own the FDA, which is why we're getting poisoned. China owns and has their hand in a lot of our institutions here in America, which should terrify everyone, you know, because they are not one of those people, you know, that plays nicely with competitors. Either you are Chinese or you are subservient to Chinese. I mean, that's how they roll. It is the law of the jungle with them. And you have to understand that. It's not the same way we think, where we want a level, even playing field and everybody's happy-go-lucky with everybody. Like, they're not looking to be the hero. They're not looking to be good little boys like we do, you know?
Right. I mean, so there's a whole nother, if anybody actually reads The Art of War, I highly recommend it. Not as like a, you know, like, hey, I need to go and be better at, you know, just global military, you know, strategy. No, but it will give you a very good idea of how the Chinese think about war. And it's played both socially, diplomatically, as well as, you know, kinetically with your military. And the United States, we don't do a very good job of trying to subvert, you know, a government just by lying. and lying and lying and lying and lying and lying.
I mean, the CIA does a pretty good job of doing that.
So we
run
censorship, right? That's our thing. So we go into a country and we promote democracy through censorship. Okay. And so, and that is, it's versus what the Chinese will do is like, we'll sit at the tables with like a Chinese diplomat and appreciating that the Chinese think they're at war with the United States. We'll sit there and say whatever they need to say to cripple a position, to inform a position, have the United States do something against their own interest, thinking that they're talking to somebody in good faith on the other side of the table. It's in the art of war. And so the point being is like, and this Tim Walz, okay, one of his big criticisms is that he wants to cooperate and coexist with China. That's his position.
Yeah.
Guess what? I would love that too.
Yeah.
But we don't get that.
You don't get that with the CCP. They have one objective, and that is world domination, right? You will never get play nice, we all cooperate and prosper together. That doesn't happen with China. I'm sorry to tell you this. They have one goal in mind, and that is world domination. And you can disagree with me, but go read some Chinese literature. I mean, it is the way their people think. It is how their culture operates. Whoever has the most power is the most powerful, and everybody bows down to that dude. So whether it's political, monetary, physical, whatever, the law of the jungle is the law of the land in China. So
right. And you're talking about the Belt and Road Initiative. Like that's their start, where they're trying to basically do whatever they can to kind of disrupt the American, or I should say the dollars, general.
They want to end the world's dependency on the U.S. currency. Yep. They want to displace our trade partners throughout the world. They want to take over economic strength in the world. They're, stealing our IP at every chance so that they can continue to grow. They're bribing because, they've got 1.8 billion people, right? That's a lot of people watching basketball. That's a lot of people buying food.
Mm-hmm.
So Americans want to sell to China. And so through our greed, they lead us around by the nose.
Very true.
So
very, very true. And so, I don't want to get into another podcast could be dedicated to China. It's actually crazy. Maybe we don't have a dedicated thing to it because I honestly, we just need to understand.
We don't want to get banned.
Yes, that's also true.
That's the fastest way we get banned right there. Like we could talk about COVID till we're blue in the face, and then we start talking shit about China, and boom, our account's gone.
Yeah, we could talk shit about Israel, and we could talk shit about China. That would be the
very, very true.
Yeah. So basically, if you look at just to put a pin in this, okay, the Belt and Road Initiative, there's many things that's just the start. Then they have their Global Development Initiative, which they launched in 2021, the Global Security Initiative they launched in 2022, and then the Global Civilization Initiative that they lobbied in 2023. Okay, and they're working with all these people, all these other major economies in the world to kind of come together and basically oppose what they see as like the Western threat, NATO and our alliances. So Tim Walz trying to get cushy to this it literally plays right into their hand.
Yeah, they love it.
Mm-hmm.
They love it. They love it when the pig comes to eat out of their hand, so that it's easy to kill them.
We are very, very easily wounded.
Yeah.
Oh, God damn it. Tim Walz is just the perfect person, along with Kamala Harris, who has zero backbone.
Yeah. They absolutely would love those two in office. They would not want Trump back in office. They don't want a strong America. It doesn't play into their hand. No. So they're absolutely going to be running money into their campaigns and trying to help them succeed in their bid for president and vice president.
Yeah, we clean up our food. We clean up our just mental health in this country, and we'll be on top. We'll be back on top of the world.
Yeah, we'll got at least another 250 years in us.
Easily, I bet you we will transform. Okay, here's the thing: if we can literally get these health crises under control, aka the childhood obesity epidemic, autism, some of the other mental things that we're going through, and we do that by cleaning up our food, by getting all the corruption out of the FDA, stuff like that. Okay, we ban Monsanto's just like every other country has in Roundup for fuck's sake. Anyway, we do those things, and then we literally have AGI around the corner. All right. So as long as we have a healthy population, AGI is going to propel us into a whole nother level of superpowerdom, to make up a word, because it's truly crazy.
That's why we're in such fierce competition with the rest of the world for it, you know. So.
Yeah, and we'll get it. Well, we're getting it. We're leagues ahead of everybody else, which is great. It's all coming out of like.
I hope it's not a moon landing situation where we're saying, "Look at what we've got. Look at what we've got," and
it's definitely not.
It's not there.
As somebody who uses it professionally every day, it's like it blows me away. Like every couple months, like I'll think like, wow, this is really great, and then a new thing will land, a new update will land, and then all the problems I was having I have a new set of problems, but they're much smaller, and it's just getting better and better and better. My job, I'm turning into like, you should look at my employee reviews. Like they literally they're just growing every year because of all the work that I can now do. I literally have several agents running on the side, just doing shit for me all the time. And then I come back, like, 'cause I'm a project manager by trade. Okay, I'm a technical program manager, so I'm in the weeds with my fellow analysts and engineers and things like that. And so I have, I don't know, probably at least half a dozen agents running my projects for me. And so I will give them updates, and I'll say here, and they know the cardinal direction that I need to get to and the players that I'm working with, and they will come back to me and say, okay, next step. And I will go do those things. And it just keeps, I can keep a bazillion projects running, and I don't have to have crazy notes all over the place. Cause I got Bob, the AI over here, figuring it out for me. It's great. Anyway.
Oh man, I don't have, much else to talk about that interview. I mean, it was a continuation of my disappointment for Kamala Harris. Like there was nothing good or any value gained from that.
We learned nothing.
She just talked in circles for the most part. And
if anybody listening actually learned something new that we didn't talk about, put it in the comments, because I got nothing. I got absolutely nothing. Anyway,
and it's not like, we're trying to force you to go down Trump's road, but I just, when you look at everything critically and you're looking at everything that's happening within the country, why would you want to vote for anyone but Trump? Like, why wouldn't you want America to come back stronger and better?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want to set up future generations to have a good upbringing like that we had in the 90s and the early 2000s? Like, why wouldn't you want that for the rest of America? So I don't know.
A good friend, I was talking to a good friend of ours, mutual friend of ours, and I was kind of bringing up how the media has done such a great job of using Trump's misogyny against him, right? Very, very good examples. But again, this is stuff that they pull up from 20 plus years ago, and they just keep throwing it back into the zeitgeist, right? And the females in my life that are close to me, it impacts them, because they're like, why would I ever vote for somebody who's like this? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I totally get that. But our friend basically said, like, yeah, that makes sense, but are you voting for the feels? Or are you voting for the reals? I was like, you would fucking say that, and that makes so much fucking sense. That's amazing. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, damn, I'm going to use that.
What's crazy too is you can look up Trump's employment in his first term, the first 4 years that he did. He had more mothers employed than just about any other demographic. Like, if females are looking for somebody that's going to be doing good things for everyone in this country, Donald Trump's your guy. I mean, how many other presidents put that many women that have children to work like that?
I don't know.
It's crazy.
I want to actually, we should probably dedicate some time to the message that big media and social media isn't giving us about Trump. Actually lay some of these cards out for everybody else to hear.
I mean, he did an amazing job. Like, when you actually look at what he did, who he supported, how he grew the economy, the actual meat and potatoes, not the manufactured chaos that the media wants you to absorb, right? But the actual things that Trump did, it's pretty awesome. And if everybody saw that message instead of the manufactured chaos, everybody would have been like, let's just have Trump in power forever. You know?
Oh boy. Why would you say that?
I don't want that. I'm just saying it's like the kind of person that he was in his first 4 years, you know, and I missed it, you know. I didn't realize what we had, you know, and probably till the last year and a half that he was in office. I was too absorbed in what the media message was, the chaos.
Right.
But he did an amazing job. He did just an absolutely amazing job.
And we have to temper this with yes, there was some failures in the Trump administration, but recognize this is a first-time president, first-time politician. This guy spent his career in real estate, running businesses. Running the government is not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. You need an entirely different mindset. You need an entirely different, you know, working group of friends and allies. That understand the political landscape.
His entire network was bad. It was terrible. Yeah. And he did an amazing job with a bad network. Imagine what he's going to do this time around after having 8 years to build up a network and find the right people to put in the right places to do the good work. Right?
I'm already loving some of these names, man. RFK, you know, to go tackle, you know, all of this bullshit in the FDA, the CIA, and whatnot. There's not a better person. No. Bring Elon Musk in to go route out, you know, fiscal corruption. Amazing. Yeah. Stop paying for, you know, $50,000 worth of toilet paper that comes in a single roll. Like, fuck you.
From blind women businesses, because that's what somebody's putting up at the front of the business, and then it's just a bunch of corrupt assholes in the back, charging us too much. Yep.
The Department of Department of DOGE.
Department of Government Efficiency.
There we go. That's exactly what we need. Bring it in. And
the Dodge.
Yeah, we need the Doge.
Doge.
Anyway, we could just rat tail here all day.
I don't know. I had something for a second. It's gone now. Sorry, I've had too much caffeine today.
You're ready for some food. I am also gonna get some food, dude. I ate so much trash yesterday. I need to go get something healthy in my system.
That's the good stuff right there, though.
You have no idea.
I'm about to eat just so many appetizers, just white trash appetizers, and eat some good food. I'm excited, man.
That's amazing.
It's gonna be a good Sunday.
Yeah, I literally did nothing but drink Red Bull and eat things laced in sugar yesterday. That was my whole day.
You got to get off that Red Bull, dude.
I very rarely drink Red Bull. Like, I don't even like it. But yet, just, it was the place, it was the thing to be doing. And so that's what we did. And
it'll happen.
And here I am suffering the consequences. Now I have a fridge full of it.
That's awesome.
All right, man. Well, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yeah, let's, are we doing this again tomorrow?
Let's do it again.
Okay. I will see you tomorrow, buddy.